I'm Jamie Good, and I'm taking a different look at some of the vineyards of Marlborough, visiting some of the growers in the region with Mike Eaton, who's been working in the vineyards here since the 1980s. We're focusing on some of the more interesting spots to grow good wine grapes, and we're beginning in the Wairau Valley, one of the southern valleys. It's a hot spot for Pinot Noir.
So tell me about this vineyard here.
It's the Tintersfield vineyard owned by Ben and Lisa Ensor, or actually the farm here is a family farm going back 3 generations. We're in the Wairau Valley. The Omaka stream or river actually runs down under the edge of the vineyard there, so you've got a really nice terrace in here that's really good grape country. And of course right up in the valley in here there's some lovely sites that we have to convince as farming partners and the rest of the family that they have to sacrifice some of their good spring grazing land for some excellent sites. But it's what you do get up in these upper regions here is you get really hot from about 2 till 7 in the afternoon, and obviously higher frost risk in the spring, but there are exceptional flavours and flavour development up here in these upper valleys. So just here you've got the upper Wairau, over there you've got the upper Omaka Valley, and then you've got the upper Brancott and Claven, and just over the hill over there. So it's nestled right in against the back of all the Wither Hills here. The nice thing about the bit of cloud today, isn't it? It's back down on my ute, so you can see. Always about the scruffiest time of the year at the moment. Just when you first planted,
yes,
yep.
Would have been in the summer of 1982, 83, which was a very severe drought, and there was a lot of wind. The wind blew every day from the southwest. Cold wind. Often I'd have a jersey on in the middle of summer. It was sort of bizarre. The poor plants didn't like that very much.
So that must have been pretty much ancient history in terms of Marlborough.
Yeah.
What else was here then?
There were some vineyards down the road. The Pernod Ricard vineyards were well established, and there was a moderate number of contract growers. I used to go to meetings of growers, and I probably knew everybody in the room by first name. I mean, there might have been 20 or 30 people.
The all-out brawls over pricing.
Oh,
I think it was all the way up to $200 a tonne back then, wasn't it?
Gee, it was.
Mullathurga?
Yeah, it was unbelievable. I'd be harvesting grapes one year and still hadn't settled on the price for the previous year. It was mayhem, really, looking back.
And we've got 3 companies: Penfolds, Pernod Ricard, Corbins.
Yes.
And there was Garrett's were here for a little while, weren't they, in the early days?
Yeah. We were contracted to Penfolds, but they never ever took any fruit. It all went straight to Pernod Ricard, Montana it was at the time. But yeah, it was kind of Wild West stuff, I suppose.
And own rooted cuttings going in?
Yes, no
initially?
grafted plants. No grafted plants initially.
So we got the wake up in the late 90s with that.
Yes. Yeah, mid 90s or thereabouts. I think 1993 we first saw phylloxera. Wondered why these plants weren't doing well in a little clump. Yeah.
And you were one of the few that didn't have the dominance of Mullathurga at the time. You actually had Semillon and
it was just Semillon.
And I think you got some of the first plantings of the Sauvignon that came down with the VIG from the selection that came out of Silax and Waiheke Island. The 6 rows you I remember you had planted initially for the VIG.
Yeah, that's right. Ben and Francis Wickham sent something special, and they're still in the ground there. Yeah.
Those original 6 rows still there. So interestingly with Robert, the fact that Robert also grew his own rootstocks and took material from his own block in the early years, and what that actually meant is when we went in the 90s, it started becoming very difficult to find good sources of Sauvignon Blanc that weren't virused. when we tested through Robert's block, in the areas of those early plantings we found virtually no virus, and we dug them out, didn't we, at the time, and kept it completely clean. And there wouldn't be many sites like that around now.
Which was fine, but in the final analysis a far worse problem reared its head in the form of Botrysphaeria, which the impact of that on the plants has been at least as bad, if not worse, than
the
virus.
Right.
Yeah, we're having to rip plants out in that airstrip area simply because the phylloxera has overwhelmed them.
What, Botrysphaeria? Yeah. I think.
Sorry, Botrysphaeria. Botrysphaeria. Yeah.
So I guess the lesson from that is if you want to be constantly in fear of something killing your livelihood, grow grapes.
Yeah.
Because there's always something on the horizon, isn't there?
There is. Wood diseases are probably of all the types are probably the biggest threat to the ongoing viability of your vineyard.
That's why you have sons, to pass the problems on to them.
Yeah, I suppose that's right. Yeah, I don't think I get thanked for that, but that's how it's turned out.
So I got the land initially from Robert for Claven, and I remember when I was working in France, I remember thinking, some of these sites over here, the really good ones, they look a lot like this land I used to work up near because I used to do work for Robert back in the late 80s, wasn't it? 86, 87, I did a bit of work up here for you. Anyway, came back and Robert just happened to have subdivided some of the land, and so the land where Claven is now was originally Robert's, and I don't think I came across more favourable purchase terms, because I got, the only problem is, Robert, I got no money, and I'll tell you what, how about you, if you can come up with a 10% deposit, then you can sort me out May next year, because I don't need the money until then. And so I had, and I think the sole occupant for that first year of the paddock was a horse that I put on there that I used to think I'd ride, and it generally just threw me off. And so it was sort of a good start, but it was a fairly simple start for Claven back then, wasn't it? So, so much timber around for us. So you got Arnsfield.
That's the stuff over there last year, Mike, that we did, and it's
It's gone completely.
yeah, it's pretty much gone.
They couldn't get I was saying they couldn't get their knives in.
Yeah, quite not very often, so give it a decent.
Which one is going to be the easiest to shock constantly
Yeah.
being root trimmed,
Yeah,
and whereas you can get on a little bit easier.
yeah. Just clean shake that gets rid of all of that, and
all that-
shatters all the leaf too, so you kind of get that nice dapple.
Is it?
Oh, so just good enough.
Yep. What it also ends up doing is knocking out some. Who would do that? I mean, who would plant at 1.5 acres? Yep. And if you harvested this one up to about where the line is there, and possibly even the top edge of that.
more focused on the road rather than blind.